Hello and welcome back to Cutleaf. First of all, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who's joined the Facebook group Cutleaf Creatives. I think we're somewhere around 360 members now, and everyone's posting in there all the time and everyone's helping each other out with feedback, and it's just a great community of people just helping each other out. So yeah, thank you. If you're part of that, brilliant. If you're not, check it out on Facebook, Cutleaf Creatives. Secondly, we're nearly at 4,000 subscribers. I think we're like 45 off, which is nuts because I never thought that I'd have this many subs on the channel before. But it just goes to show that my content is helping people out there, which is a great feeling. Thanks for sticking around, guys, and thanks for hitting that sub button and thumbs up. It really helps. Anyway, today's video is going to be a bit of an edit tutorial, so I'm going to be taking you through a bit of an edit, showing you my workflow in Lightroom, and I'm also just going to quickly talk to you about why you shouldn't throw away your photography that you take when you're out. Stick around for the video, and I hope it's going to help some of you out there, seeing a bit of workflow and just a little bit of an explanation why you shouldn't throw anything away. But before we jump into the video, if you haven't already seen my motivational reel on Instagram that's really deep and hopefully gives you a bit of motivation to quit your 9-to-5 job and go full-time as a photographer and videographer, you need to see that first. So 26 seconds, hold on, roll the reel, let's go.
You will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way.
I've been having...
So the other day, I think on Wednesday, I was in Plymouth. I went to see my mate Tom, and he was showing me the ropes around Plymouth because I never really photographed there, because obviously I only photograph my area because I still can't drive. But yeah, so Tom was showing me around in Plymouth, and when I was on the train and I was approaching, the sun's breaking through and we're getting some beautiful light pull through, and it was just looking really good and like a promising day. However, after speaking to Tom at his new office space, which is sick, and I wish that I had it, as we approached the Plymouth Hoe, that's what it's called, the clouds came over and it ended up being a really shitty day. Cloud galore, like no sun, there was nothing going for the weather at all. Like, it was dire. But obviously I made my way to Plymouth, and I didn't go all that way for nothing, obviously, except for seeing Tom, but obviously I wanted to get some photos as well. We went to the Plymouth Hoe, I unpacked the bag and I got the drone up. I wasn't very excited, to say the least. Like I said, there was like literally nothing going, and every time I was looking at the actual phone, I was just like, what is the point of getting any sort of content around here? But again, any content is better than no content. Consistency is key when it comes to uploading. So I knew that I had to stick around and basically try my best to sort of get anything. So we stuck around for the next couple of hours, and we travelled around to Westbury and Plymouth, and I sent the drone up and I got some photos, and I wasn't sure how they were going to turn out until yesterday when I decided to go through the memory card and I decided to start editing some of the photos. And because my editing flows changed since my videos from last year when I first started editing, I could actually do some pretty nice things with the images. Like, not the best, like they're not my most favorite photos, but I could actually do something and, you know, make it look half decent. I thought today I would take you through my editing process with the photos that I had, and I'm also going to give you access to these photos so you can practice yourself following my workflow, or even just experimenting on your own. Let's turn around and jump into the editing suite. Okay, so in this edit tutorial, we're going to edit 2 of the photos that I really liked. We might quickly speed ramp some of this just to get through it quite quickly, but I will explain the fundamentals behind the edit to try and get the best out of the image that I can. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is open up Lightroom, and once it's opened up, we're going to go and find our files. So I'm just going to go onto the memory card from the drone, and we can see I've got a series of DNG and JPEG files. Now, of course, we're going to use the raw files. So let's just hit clean up and go kind. Then I'll just separate the JPEG to DNG, so it's just easier to find all of your raw files. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I love to stack my images and take multiple exposures as well to really have the freedom and play with those highlights and shadows in my image. So what we're going to do, this is the first image, so we're going to grab the bottom part of the image, and I'm just going to highlight those, and the top part just there, and let's go ahead and add those in. And just go ahead and click import. Okay, for the next part, once they've all been imported, you just want to go ahead and easily hit Command and A, and now select all of your files, then just right click and then go to photo merge and then HDR panorama. The reason we're not choosing HDR is because we're going to stack the images, so it's going to be a panoramic as well, so we want to HDR panorama the images, and then go ahead, click, and then Lightroom should do a pretty good job at combining those files. Just a little tip for you, when you are stacking your images, remember to leave a little bit of the frame inside of the last image when you rotate up, if that makes sense. So say if I take a photo like here, and then I pan up, I want to leave this part of the image in the top part as well, so Lightroom then knows where that part of the image is coming from, and it makes it easier to stitch. It's probably a really bad way of explaining it, but I hope you understand. So as you can see here, Lightroom has done a pretty good job at merging the images. Again, like I said, it's very dull and boring. Untick auto settings, it's even worse, and if we click auto, it just does a little bit of magic for us. Now I like perspective because that's how I took the image and that's how I wanted it to merge. So what we're going to go and do is just click merge. Okay, so once your image is merged, just double click and open it up, and then hit the develop tab. And now we'll start our edit. So the first thing I would do with all of my images is just bring a bit of contrast in, reduce the highlights, and maybe play with the shadows, bring those up a little bit, drop the blacks, and then just bring a little bit of clarity in. We don't want to bring too much and we don't want to reduce it. So what we want to do is just bring a little bit of clarity in to the image. There you go, that's before, that's after. And then tiny bit of texture, and then we play with the tone curves. I don't do much with the tone curves, I just bring the bottom part up slightly to bring a sort of faded look into the image. About there, and then I'll just drop the middle part. Bring it up there. About there. So as you can see already, we've done quite a bit to the image. So that's before, very flat, very dull. And then that's the after. So we're bringing a bit of life, we're bringing a bit of contrast into the image. So the next part, as you know, I like to play with my colors. So the first thing we're going to start with is the hues. And then in terms of saturation, I just like to bring those colors through a little bit more. So we're just going to bring the aqua and the blue through and just pump the red up slightly as well to make sure that hoe stands out. So that's our before, that's our after. And then scroll down, I just bring a little bit of noise reduction through. We don't want too much, we don't want the image to lose too much of its clarity. And then I sort of leave the rest. And then what I do in Lightroom, so this is like the base edit in Lightroom, this is the process that I go through, is we hit the crop tool and then we just hit 4:5, which is Instagram crop. And then we choose our composition. So I want to keep the bottom part of this image in, we don't want to lose that, about there. And then we also want to rotate it just to straighten the horizon. There we go, I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that I do in Lightroom. Like I said, it's not major, and then the rest of the edit comes through in Photoshop. So what we want to do, go ahead, click File, and then we want to export this as a PSD file. And then we want to just, no watermark, just make sure it's top quality, and everything I leave the same. Go ahead and click export. Then that should open up in your desktop. Go ahead, double click and open it up. Okay. So the first thing I do is just open a new layer on top of this. I'll just go ahead and press Command J. So the first thing I like to do in all of my images is just clean up anything I don't like. So I'll go ahead and I click the healing brush tool, and then I sort of Photoshop out anything that's quite distracting that I don't want to be there. But this one, to be fair, looks like it's okay. I mean, the swimmers, it's very minimal, but I don't really want them in my shot. I want it to be quite clean. So once you've selected the healing brush tool, hit Option and then tap, and then copy a part of the image that you want to duplicate. So there we go. That's quite a natural copy, and then And then small things like inside the actual pool, I don't like these dirt marks, so I'm going to be quite picky and I'm just going to clean up some of this stuff. Again, it hasn't done a huge amount, but again, for me, it just cleans it up a little bit, just removing those swimmers and a little bit of the pool. So what I want to do is just go ahead, Option, Command, Shift and E, and just merge those layers together. And then the next step I like to do is I like to play with the selective color tool. Now I know we've already played with the colors in Lightroom, but I just find that Photoshop allows you to adjust them just that little bit more, just something that I like doing in my images. So again, starting with the reds. So that's the before and that's the after with the selective color tool. One more time, before and after. Again, what you want to do is just bring those layers together. So Option, Command, Shift and E. Then the next thing I like to do is play with the curves adjustment layers. So we're going to go ahead and click adjustments and add 2 curves adjustment layers. And with the first one, we're going to hit multiply, and then we're going to hit Command I, and then we're going to hit screen for the other one, and then again Command I. Now you want to grab your brush tool, so go ahead and click B. Make sure this microphone is well placed. We want to just then play with the opacity, maybe bring it down to around 25 and the flow at 50. And then as you can see, what I'm doing here over the whole thing is just bringing in those highlights a bit more, but we don't want to do it over the whole image. We want to do it on several parts. So for example, with the light coming in on the side of the image, I just want to bring and brush that in ever so slightly. So there you go, that's before and that is after. But I think the highlights are a bit too much on the actual water. So what you want to do is just bring the brush up, and then you want to invert the colors down the bottom here to black. And then I want to get rid of some of the highlights. So I'm just going to change the opacity down to about 27 and make those a little bit less prominent. Okay, so I'll say that's our curves adjustment layers done. So if I just uncheck them so you can see the before, there you go. And then if we bring in the highlights and then pump up the shadows, just there. So that's not made a huge difference, but it's enough to sort of bring the image a bit more to life. So again, we want to bring those layers together, Option, Command, Shift and E. I forgot to do one thing from the selective color, so I'm just going to go ahead, add another selective color, and then go on to the whites, because then I like to try to find a nice white balance in the image manually.
100 grams.
Now, because the sky is quite boring and I don't like to use sky replacement, we need to do something about it. So what I want to do is sort of bring a nice light flare coming from the top right of the image, the direction of the sun, and sort of blow out the sky and get rid of it because it's not really needed. So I want to choose a light flare. You can buy these off Etsy. Just type in light flares for Photoshop and there'll be a ton that pop up. They'll be available to you. So I want to go ahead and use one that I sort of favor, and we'll go for 51. And I want to flip that horizontally. Push it up to there. Now, at the moment, you can probably see that it's really yellow. We are going to change that. But the first thing you want to do is sort of position it where you want it, hit enter, and then go to soft light, go to screen. And then you want to reduce the opacity so it's not too strong. There you go, something like that's okay. Then what I want to do is add a layer mask on top of that. Hit the brush tool, make it larger, and then we want to bring the opacity back up from previously and the flow, and we want to start erasing some of that out of the image. There you go, you want to do that until you think you've got it right. Now obviously the color of that light flare is different to the actual picture, so what you want to do is just add a hue and saturation adjustment. You want to clip that onto the layer below, so we go create clipping mask, and then what you want to do is just bring down the saturation to match the color of the picture, and I want to bring the lightness through a bit more. So it's all about trial and error. It's all about trying different things. So once you've got the saturation right, you can go back to the layer below, hit the brush tool, and just sort of again brush out what you don't like. So there you go, you can see it adds just a little bit extra into the image rather than it being quite flat now and the sky being really boring. So again, I want to hit Option, Command, Shift and E because I'm happy with that. And then I just want to crispen the image a little bit more. So I go to Filter, Other, High Pass, 0.5 should work. Hit OK, and then go to Overlay, and then that'll just crispen the image slightly. Go ahead, Option, Command, Shift and E one more time, and that is our image complete, roughly. Then you want to go ahead, export your file, call that Plymouth Hoe. And then what you end up with is an image that looks something a little bit like that. So just looking at the before, so that's what we had looking on Lightroom, and then that's what we have as the end product. So not a bad image. If we just, I haven't really got time actually, sorry, to do the other image because this one took a little bit longer than I expected. But I'm just going to quickly show you on the screen now a few of the other images that I managed to get. So this is another one of the Plymouth Hoe. So as you can see, you've got this lovely leading line sort of swerving through the center of the image, and then you've got a nice sort of flare coming down from the top right. And then we've reduced the greens a little bit, but again, that turned out quite nicely from what it was. Then we also have, I can't remember what it's called, but it's one of the rocks at Wembury Beach. And last but not least, I haven't really done anything with this, but this is a top-down shot, sort of like the way the textures look, and also like the color of the water. So they're the images that I got. So in total we got like 4 images from that trip, which is 4 images to upload to Instagram. So yeah, if I didn't go to Plymouth that day and I didn't get the drone up and I didn't try to edit the photos that I didn't like and was going to delete, I wouldn't have 4 photos that I could upload to my socials. And even though I didn't really like these images, I uploaded one to Instagram already, and it's my 3rd most liked image on Instagram to date. I think it's got about 630 likes. So yeah, moral of the story is to not throw away your images because you might not be happy with them, and give them a go, edit them and see how they're received on your social platforms. I for one will most certainly be going out more even if the weather's not that nice, just to sort of test my ability as a photographer and also an editor. So yeah, it's a bit of a rough one, but if you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that sub button below. We're nearly at 4,000, and I will make more videos like this. It just takes time, and obviously I'm busy with the production side of things. And yeah, I will see you next week for another video. See you then.